Grace Johnson is the founder and CEO of the Grace Johnson Leadership Institute. She holds an Associate of Arts degree in Psychology and a Bachelor of Science degree in Organizational Leadership and Management. Both degrees were awarded by Regent University, Virginia Beach in the United States. She's currently pursuing a master's degree in Organizational and Business Psychology at the University of Wolverhampton in the United Kingdom. Grace Johnson brings more than 40 years of leadership experience to this forum we're having this morning, having founded a church planting organization, which is the Logos of Flame Ministries, in February 1986, with churches in different locations in Lagos State, Nigeria. A number of pastors and other professionals in leadership positions who are serving in different parts of the world were students under her tutelage, including myself. Grace is a leadership coach and a gifted teacher. She has spoken in leadership conferences in a couple of nations. She's running with a strong passion to develop people-focused leaders who will use their leadership positions to serve in corporate establishments, government civil service, and the church world. To deliver a presentation titled Diversity and Inclusion, join me in welcoming the president of the Grace Johnson Leadership Institute, Grace Obi Johnson.
Thank you, Damilola Ajayi. Thank you so much. Once again, welcome. More people have joined us. Thank you for defying the rains. The rains are just doing their own job, and we are to do ours. Thank you for being here. And in my welcome address, your presence here tells Nigeria that there is hope for Nigeria. I took time to describe a little about some of our challenges in our nation. I want to again acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Adun Akinyemiju. When you have a relationship that has been running for more than 2 decades, I believe there's so much within that relationship. And she had been around with me, and she's a woman who is an organizer, a visionary woman. If you see the group of schools that has sprung out of her, you will appreciate the value she has created, not just for Lagos State, not just for Nigeria. She serves in an international Christian educational body. She's constantly traveling, especially to Rwanda, where she's influencing the Christian education system. In fact, the education system, but bringing the value of our faith and what she's doing. We thank you for being here. I thank you for being here in spite of the rains. Thank you so very much. And Barrister Tom Ivory, thank you for being here this morning with your family. Thank you. Your kids are listening, and they will do great things. And I want to thank the Lamites that are here. You are the host. Thank you for being here. If there's any group we have not acknowledged, please bear with us. We appreciate your presence here. We are starting something different. Something different. And for the benefit of people who were not with us yesterday, I want to touch on a little of the things that I taught. I don't know if you can go to day 1. But in a nutshell, what I was presenting to us yesterday is the journey of leadership in the past 50 years, I must thank Barrister Chike Ekwueme. Thank you for that presentation. And if I'm to be a good leader, just give me some 2 minutes. I'm not doing anything and achieving anything all by myself. I have a team. I have a team that work with me. Just like he eloquently presented to us a few minutes ago. You may have the position of being the voice that will speak to the people directly, but somebody walked behind the scene to make that presentation what it should be. There are things we need to learn in our culture. That you are right at the forefront doesn't mean you are the all-knowing. And that's why we emphasized yesterday that leadership is not about your position. Position is okay. There's nothing wrong with position. But when your mindset is, I'm a leader because of this position, because I'm called the administrator, because I'm called the manager, then we miss it. Because in the circle of that manager, there are a lot of people that have put things together to make the manager perform well and look good before everybody. And we need to begin to learn to appreciate our team members. I have many of them. If you've been around for 40 years in leadership, much more than that, you have people. You have people in your life. They are part of the things we teach in the Institute. We teach you how to relate. We have organizational behavior. Now, an organization, well, some say it's a living thing, but it's not a physical thing you can touch. So if organization has a behavior, it is the people in the organization that have that behavior. So we are trying to teach how people within an organization should conduct themselves. And we have organizational communication. Very, very key to life. How we talk. How we process what we say. So, I have Mr. Damilola Ajayi. He spoke yesterday. How many of you saw him? He spoke yesterday, so you are seeing him live today. And he is an asset. Every one of our leaders are assets. And Barrister Chike Ekwueme, you've heard him this morning. Great asset. And Damilola Ajayi has been with me for over 20 years. Can you believe it? Barrister Ekwueme, is it close to 30 years? Yes. So that's what it takes. For young people, we don't hop around and think when we run everywhere because our goal is I want to be seen, I want to be known. The top is always the attractive thing. When we have that mindset, like we heard earlier, you don't get to be seen. You don't get to be seen because all you want is to be seen. And I have Dr. Kenny Akins, a very resourceful woman. And then I have our staff. They put all of this together. Yes, the brain work is here, but I can only think. But people, I need hands and feet to get those thoughts come to reality. I didn't do all this that you are seeing. I came in, I was just blown away. Beautiful. But I gave instructions, that's all. The people made it happen. That's what leadership is about. I'm thankful that I have women and men who believe in me and believe in the vision that I carry, our strategy, and we are running with it. I'm thankful for that. Okay, leadership. I've been a student of leadership right from my teenage years. That's when I started employing people. Believe it. I started employing people as a teenage girl in a culture that doesn't believe in women. But from teenage years, I've been in that leadership journey. And you heard now I'm pursuing an MSc currently. And part of this structure, when I say that, Mrs. Akinyemi bows. You know, but we were given an assignment to look at leadership in the past 50 years. And beyond 50 years, you can think of at least the Second World War. And in that world, you know, wherever they fight war, it's like human beings lose their empathy. They lose any softness, any tenderness in them. You've seen so much death, so much blood, you know, running over human bodies as you're fighting war, and so many other terrible things you've seen out there. You come out looking tough and rough, and sometimes mean, very mean. And that's what leadership had been, because the people who were leading came out of all those wars, World War I, World War II, and it all filtered down to us. So we had this top to bottom kind of leadership where the person at the top believes he or she has all the knowledge in the world. And, you know, issues instructions, and sometimes these instructions don't really flow with the bottom, because at the bottom are the people who are actually doing the job. But we have this feeling of importance. That's my position. I'm the head. I'm at the top. So we have experienced leadership both in the family, workplace, in religious places, wherever we find ourselves. We've experienced those tough, mean kind of leadership. And it left a gap with people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s at this time. You've been leading people in that same manner, being tough and speaking down on people, using your negative emotions to run people, anger, harsh words. And you say things that tear down your staff, tear down your family. At the end of the day, that leadership style is resented by people. We find ourselves resenting our leaders. You don't really want to be in their presence. You don't want to offer any suggestion. That is because of the top-bottom leadership style. And what has happened is that in the past 50 years, leadership has been evolving. It's been evolving. It's no more that authoritarian kind of leadership. Leadership is turning into a democratic leadership style, a leadership style where you are involving others. You are involving others in decision making. You pay attention to people around you. You value what they have to say. You give them the impression that your voice matters in what we are doing. I will encourage you, pay attention to learning. I learned from Dr. Mike Murdock, whose life and writings influenced me greatly. He would say things like this: I am a learner. I am a learner. I am a learner. And that has become part of me. I'm a learner. That deflates any ego, deflates any pride. You can learn from a child. You can learn from a younger person. You can learn from anybody. You can learn from nature. You can learn from anything. So, do not be afraid to change, because change is said to be the constant thing, the only constant thing. We constantly experience change. So, get your mind ready for change. Shift in how you look at leadership. So, the present leadership is evolving into people-focused leadership. Especially from 2020, after COVID-19, the world changed. COVID-19 changed everything. It changed everything. It gave us appreciation for so many things. Appreciation for relationships. Appreciation for family. You were all locked in one place, not going out. And you were compelled to either appreciate the people around you or fight and quarrel with them. Then talk of the workplace. COVID-19 changed everything. If you follow the news like I do, you find that in the Western culture of the world, they are literally begging people to come back to work. People want to work from home. They no longer want to follow the order. And people are more concerned about their life and health. Now, even as people are engaging in their jobs, they are also concerned about their health, about their future, about their families. So earning money alone isn't the only thing. That's what came out of COVID-19. So the emerging leadership is demanding from us all of this. And it just tells me that honestly, I've seen the world in a different light. The more I do research, I love knowledge. So the more I'm researching and learning, I'm seeing that what we had lost in the past 50 years in leadership, we are at this time beginning. And if we look at COVID-19, just 3 years ago, so it's a new era. It's a new move. That leadership have to be different. It doesn't have to be top-bottom. Leadership is now being encouraged that when you are at the top, pay attention to the people who are literally your hands and your legs that run around and do all they do. Pay attention to them and see them as assets. You don't see them as people that I pay. I paid you for this job, so do this job well. It's changing. Leadership is changing from hire and fire. Those are all the things we inherited in leadership. You hire and fire. If he doesn't say what you want him to say, he's not doing it the way, first warning, second warning, third warning, you're out of the door. It becomes a different way of leading. Having said what I've said, let me go to, I touched on all of this yesterday, and I took time to talk about the leadership culture in Africa. And that's what I want to dwell in the next few minutes. Leadership culture in Africa. I told us, I found this in my research. I don't know who they are, Business Day. They have this write-up on the African culture. That the African society tend to be egalitarian within age groups, but hierarchical between, I take it again. They are egalitarian within age group. We are in the same age group, So we relate with one another like team. We can talk, we appreciate each other's ideas. But when it comes to between the ages, you find that gap of elder. Somebody is older. So the relationship between the ages now becomes hierarchical. Now, the African culture is not completely bad. Or if we go to the extreme, it's not completely evil. Every culture has the positive side, has the negative side. We all know the negative. The negative is always shouting, it's on our faces. But I want us to look at the positive sides of Africa. And as we look at Africa, we are actually talking about our own nation, Nigeria. How is our culture? How is our culture impeding leadership in our nation? You know, because we have this respect and honor for elders, which, as far as I'm concerned, it is a precious part of a precious piece of our culture. There are cultures I've visited and I'm in shock where a child calls the parents by his or her first name. And because of my own cultural background, I'm in absolute shock. I'm like almost running to grab the child and say, stop, stop, stop. But then the parents don't care anything. It's their culture. Okay? So there are good aspects of our culture. We have that enables us to show respect to people who are older than us, to people who have achieved more than us. Other cultures also have it. But we display whatever aspect of our culture in different ways. Now, in the African culture, because of this respect for elders, we see our elders usually behave and we paternalistically. Is masculine, mature. So when you look at our leadership setting in Africa, it's male dominated. Male dominated. And we expect the males to carry themselves that way. And that leadership style also makes the leader to bestow favor and expect obeisance from their followers. It's not something new to any of us. That's what we were born into. That's how we've grown up. You don't disrespect. You respect the people who are older than you. And we have challenge with it. Now, all over social media, there's always this complaint. These leaders are so old. How can these old men continue to lead? What do they have to offer? It was interesting. I can't remember the exact year, but when technology was moving so fast all over the world, and some of the social media posts were making fun of the American politicians and saying they don't even know how to get into their emails. They don't have any understanding. They are so old. They don't have that experience. Here we are saying these people are so old. They have nothing to offer us. They've lived their own life. Why don't they allow the young ones to come up? And these are the type of things we want to pay attention to. I always say, in this culture of respect of elders, you don't confront elders. I wish there's another way I can put it. But you don't confront elders. You don't insult them. You don't call them names, because you will not get what you are looking for. You want to come up in leadership. You want them to hand over to you. Then we need to begin to dialogue amongst ourselves. That's the essence of this leadership and nation building. How do we engage the culture that we are born into? How do we engage? How do we talk to these people? I always say, if you make a phone call and the person at the other end is not responding, it wouldn't make sense for you to continue talking and talking. Not sure the person is hearing you. You will pause. You need the person's attention. So if we need to effect a change in our leadership, let's dialogue together. I'm not preferring solutions right now, because we want people engaged in the conversation. Like I said yesterday, we are working towards building a community of thinkers, critical thinkers. That's what we are working towards. So it's not a one-time annual conference. We need to engage with you. You need to engage with us. How do we solve that? I've just mentioned one aspect of our problems. How do we engage with them? If you talk, maybe sitting, they feel insulted. If you talk and you didn't say Sama, they feel insulted. Anyhow you put it, you've said something wrong. You've done something wrong. How do we engage them? That's one of the things we need to look at. And culture. I want to say more about culture. Remember, I spoke yesterday on exploring the concept of nation building via leadership. And that's what we are still working on. That's our broad theme. We are exploring the concept of nation building. Now, I've described the African culture a bit, Nigerian African culture. I've described it a bit. I haven't gone into all of the dimension. Our module 6 in our GJLI Institute is cultures, leadership and cultures. And we went into cultures, not just, well, it's an international institute, so we are not talking just about Nigeria, but we discuss culture, how you engage culture. Now, back to us here, I want to touch on the good thing about, I think Barrister Kwame mentioned some aspects of that in his own presentation. But there are good aspects of the culture that we also need to focus on. Enough of us always complaining, Nigeria is bad, Nigeria is finished, there is no hope for Nigeria. We've done that enough, decades. We've been, finding faults with Nigeria. We blame the colonial masters. I agree with you. We blame politicians. I agree with you. We blame whatever we blame. I agree with you. But the question is, what do you have to offer Nigeria? Nigeria is waiting on you. What do you have to offer? So let me get back to this culture. Now, in culture, you find two cultural dimensions. You have the collective culture and the individualistic culture. I will touch a bit on it because of time and move on. The collective culture is not peculiar to Nigeria. Whatever you have in Nigeria, you have it in other nations. Please, always think that way. Always think that way. Don't think Nigeria is the worst place to be. Now, the collective culture are people who pull together. Maybe before I say that, I want you to know that the collective cultures are people who pull together. They treasure missing a word there. What did you say? Consensus. Thank you. They treasure consensus. And generally, that's how the African culture is described. And then in consensus, you want to hear Tom, you want to hear Harry, you want to hear Dick. What's your opinion? What do you have to offer? And then they are able to pull it together. Hopefully the person, the team leader, is able to pull all these different suggestions, ideas together. And they rally around each other. When they have something doing, one person is doing something, they rally around each other. There's so much I can say about the collective culture, but let me go back to the individualistic culture. The individualistic culture are people who have what is called the inner locus. They can single-handedly make decisions for themselves. There's nothing wrong with them. Single-handedly. So they can process things and come up with a conclusion that this is the way to go. This is how to handle it. And the difference between them is that the collective culture, they pull together. But the individualistic culture, one man, one woman rises, is doing his or her thing, not out of pride, please. Get it right. Not out of pride, not that they hate people and they don't want to involve people in what they are doing. This is how they are wired as individuals. Can you on your own say the collective cultures we have in Nigeria? Just give me a nod if you can. Oh, wow. Only 2 people? Collective culture? Are you not getting it? Yesterday, the feedback we got from online is that we should be interactive. So I'm trying to be interactive. People are not talking to me. Can you make out individualistic culture in Nigeria? One person. Okay? I'm sure you get the picture I'm painting for you. So, in every culture of the world, you have individualistic people, you have the collective people in every culture of the world. Not just in Africa, in every culture. Now, the politicians will use this cultural device to divide us. In the Western world, they use race. You are black, you are white, you are red, and they use it to divide people. They really don't announce it. This is white people's job, so the black ones are not welcome in it. And if you are there as black, you don't get the privileges that the real white person can get. So it's all over the world. I'm describing this to you so that we don't kill ourselves in Nigeria with tribes. Because in Africa, what we are dealing with is tribes. You don't have to destroy your nation because of this cultural dichotomy that we have. We all, nobody will say, I applied that I want to be be an Hausa person, or I applied that I want to be an Igbo person, I applied to be a Yoruba person, an Efik, or any other one. You were born into it. We don't have to kill ourselves. Young people, please get it clear. My generation have done their thing, didn't do it right, but we are challenging you, we're empowering you. Don't use the cultural divide to destroy your nation. The cultural people have, the collective people, they have so much they can offer. Likewise, the individualistic people, they have so much to offer. And that brings me, I'm getting down to it, that brings me to, in diversity we have all the tribes. I'm now talking about Nigeria, Africa. We have all the tribes. We have all the tribes. And if in an organization, that organization decides to have only their tribe, why? We understand ourselves. We know the way we do things. We don't want these people, because once they come in, they start asking too many questions and they will scatter everywhere. We want our people. Okay, you are missing something. Because when you study the different cultures, you find what they can offer. So yours becomes so monotonous. It's just your people. And there are ways, in the collective culture, you also have in-group. You have people who form cliques. In the individualistic culture, they are going on their own. Everybody is running, doing whatever he needs to do. It's important that there is a combination. I learned this for the first time when I served under a man who worked for AP, African Petroleum, in the 90s. He was their, either the administrator or human resource, something along that line. I served under him, and that was the first time I heard anybody say things of this nature. Because as a leader, he was trying to create a synergy between all these different tribes that were in his organization. And he made that statement. And I remember in our leadership, his name was Dr. S.O., Dr. Samuel O. Odunaike. I served under him. And I learned so much of admin from him. So much of admin. And his mindset, he was a very visionary man. He could see far into the future. I gleaned from everything he had to say. So, and then let me talk about the individualistic culture. The individualistic culture, the downside you will have is you cannot know everything. You need people. You can't know everything. So you are one person. You are focused on one direction. Yet you need somebody who can look by your side, by your right, by your left, behind you. And somebody who can also look in front and see something you are not really seeing. So there is need for what is called inclusiveness. And it's not enough to say, oh, we are from different tribes, we are together, we are friends together. But when you begin to manage a project, do you include the other people? Do you include the other people? And how can you include them? You include them because you can appreciate what each person can bring to the table. I love team leadership. I had to learn. Okay, let me say it this way. In my personality type, I'm individualistic. But because of being in the position of leadership, I had burnt my fingers. I have, mistakes here and there, not knowing what I know now that I'm teaching you. I didn't know them then. So I've learned over the years the importance of inclusiveness in leadership. In leadership. Don't look at people and say, this one, they are too high. I can't handle them. This one, I can't go that way. Just have that heart of a learner. I want to learn from this person. Let me see what makes them different. Why do they talk the way they talk? Why do they reason the way they reason? Why do they look the way they look? Because culture is deep. We need to study culture. We need to study it. It's a huge subject. And if we want to explore the building of our nation, we need to look at some of these things. How do we get people together? How do we stop ignoring people? How do we stop bad-mouthing people, calling them names because they are not in our group? How do we stop it? How do we harness all the talents, the gifts that is within our society? So that's the diversity and inclusiveness. Is bigger than what I've shared with you, but just to whet your appetite. And let's keep the conversation going. Thank you.